I'm Nikki Druce.
And I'm Cheryl.
And this is Killers, Cults and Queens,
the podcast where we journey to the spookiest, scariest, and damn right weirdest corners of the world.
Today, we're off to Switzerland to uncover the mysterious world of the Order of the Solar Temple cult.
Knights Templar? Yeah, I founded it, mate.
Completed it, mate. Don't like it.
It's not right, is it? Definitely not okay.
Well, I hate to break it to you, but rainbow drops are not going to cure your ailments.
No, exactly.
The hills are alive with the sound of music.
Are you ready?
I've got my coach. I'm ready for business. Let's do this.
Imagine learning about religion when you're younger, but finding that the traditional path is not something which ticks all the boxes. After many years of study, trial and error, you believe you've found something far better. But it's not going to be an easy path to tread. Mysticism, occult beliefs, and even a world filled with sacrifices could lead you to success. But you couldn't do this alone. You'd need followers to join you. But if your loyal flock turned against you, would you have what it takes to pull the trigger? Literally. Welcome to Killers, Cults and Queens. But before we dive into today's case, what's cooking, our Shez? How you doing? I love your coat.
Well, you said we're going to Switzerland, and famously, it's cold there this time of year. So I put on my big coat, I put on my Miranda Priestley hair for some reason, and I said, ready for action. I feel like I'm good for a trip to Switzerland. Get some nice chockies, maybe go down the slopes.
Buy a cuckoo clock. I used to own a cuckoo clock, and
of course you did.
I could never make it work properly. There was always an issue with it every time I tried to wind it up, but it never cuckooed at the right time when it was meant to.
Well, you need Gwen Stefani on the case. She knows how to wind it up.
TikTok.
This is the key that makes you wind up.
So I really like anything that's Swiss. I've never been to Switzerland though, but I love the chocolate. I love the little chalets that they have there, and the thought of it being picturesque and snowy. But I've never actually been to Switzerland.
Me either. I've never been to any of them, Denmark, Norway or Sweden or Switzerland. Any of that region I've not been to, and I've always wanted to because it just seems so gorgeous, especially this time of year. I'm not one for cold. Don't get me wrong. I'm not one for cold. I do love the warmth. I do love the summer. But I think I could layer up and suck it up just for a bit of beauty. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think you'd be fine. When I went to Iceland, I was worried that I would really suffer with the cold, but it was actually fine. And I drove in the snow and everything on the wrong side of the road because I'm a big, brave girl.
And that is something I will never, ever do, Nikki Druce.
You could definitely do it. I believe in you.
Well, how many countries actually drive on the left like us?
Now, I have looked this up before because I wanted to know if there was somewhere where I could go where I could drive on the other side of the road. And I know that Japan drives on our side of the road.
Really?
And Cyprus also drives on our side of the road.
Oh, I've got one for you as well. Gibraltar.
Ah, there you go. There you go. So, yes, and I can't remember any of the other ones, but I think those are the main ones.
Yeah, that's good to know because the reality is we are the common denominator of actually driving on the wrong side of the road because there's so little of us that drive on the left. So,
yeah, and I don't understand why when we first decided to have cars in this country that we were like, oh, we're just going to drive on that side of the road, it'll be fine. And then everybody was like, oh, actually, we're driving on this side of the road. We were like, nah. Let's not think about making it a universal thing so you can drive wherever you like. But no, let's just stick to our own little quaint ways. That's what we're like over here, though, isn't it?
You zig, I zag.
Now, Shez, today's story flits around a few places, but if I mention Switzerland, France and Canada, what do those three places have in common?
Places that mooses and animals and Lady Gagas have been.
I was thinking more to do with the people that live there. What do they have in
speak
common?
French.
Exactly. They all speak French, so they don't have to let the funky music do the talking.
What? Oh, wow, Nikki, you really set me up for failure there. Because why did I not? Why did I not even twig? Silly me.
Well, it was a question out of nowhere, to be fair.
Hey.
But what do you know about French cults, or la secte, as they call them?
Well, I don't know much about Les Sect, but we have been down quite a few rabbit holes of cults, so I can only imagine that we'll see some familiar territories of leadership, ownership, and controllership. So I can definitely see patterns, but I wonder if there are differences to cults around the world.
Yes, well, in today's case, things are not what I would say comes under the branch of a normal cult. They are quite different. They're not a complete tick list of everything. So they definitely have elements, and there's definitely things where they are 100% ding, 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 tick all the right boxes, but they're not on the same path as some of the cults we've covered. So it's not quite so straightforward in terms of this one.
Okay, well, I'll strap in for the journey, strap in for the ride, and I've got my passport to go to France, Canada, and Switzerland.
Well done, you remembered. Well, it's time to put on your ceremonial robes, light your incense sticks, and think about how you might fare in a real-life game of traitors, because we're about to uncover one of the darkest cults yet. But unlike the TV show, these murders would be very real. It's time to explore the Order of the Solar Temple. So if you're ready, let's set the scene.
I'm ready.
It's the 1980s, and in a smoky, incense-filled room, a congregation of people are standing around in ceremonial robes. As they sit cross-legged on the floor, they are all concentrating their energy on bringing something into the room. Ancient spirits of knights who would help guide them in their spiritual mission. As they chant, they begin to see something. Light begins to reflect from the mirrors in front of them, and the glint of something begins to appear. As more smoke fills the room, their eyes adjust to the sparkling, transparent figure before them. They're holding a sword, and it's filled with light. This silent apparition sends telepathic messages to the leader, and soon a member of the congregation is pulled up to kneel before them as they have been chosen. The knight's sword, which is filled with light, is held to their throat. But just before they are sacrificed, they are seemingly spared. But what were the series of events leading up to these shadowy rituals, which would go on to define a religious movement which would result in mass suicide and murder? Let's find out.
Oh, Nikki, this never gets easier every time we do a cult case. It really just goes from 0 to 100 with the worst end results.
Yeah, and we're going all the way back to 1924. So,
What?
And then we're heading all the way up to the 90s. So we have got a lot to fit in.
I'm sure we will learn all about it, but I am petrified by this sword already.
So let's rewind it all the way back to 1924 in Pont-Saint-Esprit in southern France, where Joseph de Mambro was born. Joseph had an okay upbringing, but the family dynamic wasn't easy. He was the eldest of 3 children, and he and his Italian father didn't see eye to eye, but he did idolise his mother. And at school, things were also tough. Being Italian, his French schoolmates bullied him, and from a young age, Joseph decided he wanted to be independent. He wanted to find a job and leave school as soon as he could. Joseph landed an apprenticeship at just 16 years old as a watchmaker, and also went on to become skilled at making jewellery. But just as he was levelling up, the world had other plans.
Oh, I wonder what that was.
When France was occupied by Nazis in World War II, everyone's world was turned upside down. Young men and boys were taken away from their jobs and conscripted to fight in the war.
Joseph had no interest in becoming a soldier and managed to avoid being captured. But during this time, he turned to religion to help him get through. He began attending a secretive Catholic mass, and whilst he wasn't hugely into their teachings, he did like the community of it all, and this began to give him ideas.
There's one thing I will say about religion, and it is that sense of community and how one ideology or one mutual interest can bring together the loneliest of people. And I think that is something that we need to apply to all our lives, that we may all have different paths, but one thing I can equivocally say is that we will always find one thing to unite us all. And I think that's either love or a mutual passion in your life. So whether it is a religious teaching, whether it is a TV show, I just think you find your people out there and unite and bring that together, because the last thing I want is anybody to ever feel lonely in life.
And I think that's the thing about a lot of these churches and religious practices. It is for people seeking community as well. And I think sometimes the religious aspect of these things comes second. And particularly in a time like this, which was really scary and you don't know who to trust, finding your community within the church would have been really affirming for Joseph. So I can see that this probably formulated quite a lot of ideas he was going to have later down the line. During what must have been an incredibly traumatic and frightening time in World War II, Joseph became secretive and stoic. In order to protect himself, he made sure any connections he made were always on the fringes. He didn't get close to anyone, and his paranoia was entirely plausible. I mean, after all, how do you know who is safe when anyone could kidnap you and send you off to fight, or even worse?
Petrifying.
But Joseph did manage to trust one person, as in 1944, he got married.
Oh, okay. There is light and positivity in this story.
Joseph's wife, Janine Sauté, was a musician, and she and Joseph basically managed to save themselves from the Nazis by putting on a little show for them. When their house was raided in search of members of the French resistance, de Mambro played his violin, and the sound of it calmed the chaos and managed to save them both. But what do you reckon he played? We have no idea, but what do you think he played?
The hills are alive with the sound of music.
Now, after the war, the information about what Joseph got up to seems to taper off. But we know he opened a jewellery shop, he began dabbling in different religious practices, and he and Janine had a son who they called Bernard. Joseph's esoteric exploration more than likely started in much the same way he sought community within the Catholic Church. But this time, he wanted to push things outside the usual boundaries of normal household religion. So after a rough old time during the war, he was likely seeking more of the same. It's now 1955. And Joseph has been deepening his interest in esotericism. He settles on one particular group as he likes the cut of their jib, the Antique and Mystic Order of the Rosy Cross. But that's quite a mouthful though, so they went by the AMORC. So AMORC, as I'm going to call them, are an occult group founded in 1904. They were named after the symbol which defined them, a cross with a rose in the middle of it. Now, as with a lot of esoteric beliefs, it's quite hard to work out exactly what they believe, as a lot of it is secret knowledge only available to members of the order. But basically, it's all a mishmash of stuff. It's all really varied. So they take from ancient Egypt and their old gods, but they also sprinkle in some Greek philosophy, a dash of Buddhism, and also a pinch of black magic. But unless you're in the order, you won't really know because it's all very hush-hush.
It all sounds like they've just gone to the spice cupboard and go a little bit of this, a little bit of oregano. You know, they've just really just picked all the herbs and spices and said, yeah, that's our flavour.
Yeah, they've been to the occult spice cupboard.
And it's called black magic.
Joseph really liked this variety of mystical practices he experienced at AMORC, and it allowed him to truly explore his interests. But he wasn't just a bystander. He began working his way up through the order, and before long, he was head of his Grand Lodge in Nîmes in France. Now, according to their website, amorc.org.uk, they have lodges in every country in the world, and they cover 19 languages. So if you're ready, I want you to count how many these are, okay?
Okay, I've got my fingers ready.
Croatian, Czech, Danish, Dutch, English of the Americas, English of Australasia, English of Europe, the Middle East and Africa, Finnish, French, German, Greek, Hungarian, Italian, Japanese, Norwegian, Polish, Portuguese, Russian, Spanish, Americas excluded, Spanish, Americas only,
20.
and Swedish.
21.
So you are correct. That is 21 on the list, but they said 19.
Look, maybe maths isn't their forte.
I think they're probably working on the case that some of these are double counted, because we've got Spanish twice, we've got English 3 times, so I'm going to let them off a little bit for that. But back to the 1950s, Joseph really took to this incentivized network of Grand Lodges, and he really enjoyed being a shining example of the Rosicrucian order. But soon the mask would slip, and the Golden Boy would find himself in hot water.
It always begins that way, doesn't it?
It's now the mid-1960s in Nîmes, France, and 41-year-old Joseph de Mambro has been doing a good job of looking after his branch of the ancient mystical order of the Rosy Cross, the AMORC. But the Golden Boy was about to be tarnished. During the mid-1960s, rumours began to circulate that Joseph may not be the shining example he was making himself out to be. When Joseph suddenly left Nîmes, he was off on a journey of spiritual enlightenment. People began to ask questions, and one of them talked. As it turned out, Joseph was wanted on fraud charges as he had scammed a business partner of his, and so he ran away from the consequences of his own actions. But he eventually returned like, Hey,
How y'all doing?
how y'all doing? And just pretended like nothing had happened, but the AMORC were on to him, and just a few months later, he stepped down from his leadership role.
Oh, well, look. Open mouths get caught, don't they?
Exactly, and his couldn't stop flapping. But now, out on his own, Joseph couldn't keep himself out of trouble. He decided, and this is wild, to open a psychology practice.
Huh?
He's not a trained psychologist by any way, shape, or form.
I was gonna say.
Now, it doesn't take a genius to work out that operating a public business which requires certification to be able to practice would soon draw unwanted attention. And when customers began complaining about the shady practices, poor treatment options, and worsening symptoms, the cops came a-knocking.
Oh, thank goodness.
Joseph was charged with a combination of crimes, with fraud and impersonating a medical professional at the top of the list, and he was sent to prison for 6 months. Now, did this stint in prison help to reform Joseph? What do you reckon?
Nah.
You'd be exactly right. It just gave him time to think of what he could do next. But whilst Joseph is behind bars, let's meet the other key player in this game. Please welcome to the stage a man named Luc Jouret.
Luke Jerry Halliwell.
Luc Jouret was born in 1947 in Kikwit in the Belgian Congo, which was a colonialised part of the Congo until it was emancipated in the 1960s. Luke didn't have it easy as a kid. He suffered from several ailments, and before he was even 2 years old, his mother decided to take him back to her homeland of Belgium to get him treated for his various issues, which included lung problems and rickets, just to name a few. As the medical treatment in the Belgian Congo wasn't as advanced as Luke needed to get him better, he and his mother stayed in Belgium whilst his father worked back in the Congo. and they eventually returned back to Africa once his conditions were under control. But then Luc faced another blow, quite literally, as one day he was hit by a cyclist whilst out playing, which resulted in a fractured skull. His mother, obviously being worried already for her sickly son, decided that enough was enough, and so she rushed him back home, and they stayed in Belgium from then on out.
This poor diva can't catch a break at all.
And the fact that he's just got better and he's gone back to Africa and then, poof, that's it. Literally knocked out.
Think bike.
Luc, who was the second eldest of 4 children, had a normalish time growing up. He played sports and became interested in pursuing a medical career, but during his studies, he became ill once more. He developed osteoarthritis in one of his hips, and from the sounds of it, some kind of infection as well, which left him bedridden. This sudden halt knocked Luc for 6, and after some failed treatment, he began questioning Western medicine. He began seeking alternatives to make him well and found that acupuncture and also homeopathy were helping him. Now, can you remember what homeopathy is, as we have touched on it before? The sounds of typing.
Homeopathy is a system of alternative medicine based on the theory that highly diluted substances can trigger the body's natural healing process.
Thank you, AI.
I was not using AI, I was using Google.
But yes, you are correct. Google is correct that this is diluted ingredients. So homeopathy is basically the memory of water. So it is the tiniest ingredient that they use in the first place, and then they keep removing it, distilling it, removing it, distilling it, removing it, distilling it, until there is absolutely nothing left of that molecule that was in there before. So they believe that the lack of that molecule, but the memory of the water, is what has the greatest potential to cure the patient. Are you buying it? Are you straight down the shop to get your homeopathic pills?
I mean, I understand the weaning off, but I don't believe that the water is going to heal you because you think it's in there.
No, and one particular podcast, which is called Oh No, Ross and Carrie, which is probably one of my favourite podcasts of all time, they did an investigation into homeopathy and took as many as they possibly could to see if anything were to happen, because if you are taking active ingredients, surely something in there is going to cause you a problem. And nothing happened whatsoever. So they were taking sugar pills is what they worked out. But yes, there is absolutely nothing in there.
Well, I hate to break it to you, but rainbow drops are not going to cure your ailments.
No, exactly. You are entirely correct. So Luc begins studying all of this and becomes very vocal about his discoveries and begins going to conferences on alternative medicine. And he hones the craft of public speaking, and people like it. It's during these studies in homeopathy that he meets his future wife, Marie Pertu. Marie lives in France, close to the Swiss border, and so once they get married in 1980, Luc moves there. Now, let's pick back up with Joseph de Mambro. Remember that guy from just a little bit before?
Oh, rings a bell, Nikki.
So, by the 1980s, he's been out of prison for a number of years, but he's not kept his head down. Well, he kind of has, because he's been doing some shady underground stuff. But, figuratively speaking, he's still chugging along.
Subtle and slowly.
Joseph is now in his mid-50s, and he's also been exploring the alternative medicine route. He has set up a few different failed occult groups, but he's not going to let that stop him. He just keeps going, trying out new things, but he keeps failing, so he starts to look for someone else to help him. Amongst the criticisms that de Mambro received about his cults, one was very clear. He was a terrible public speaker.
I mean, look, you can't run a cult if you can't talk to your flock.
So it worked out he was great one-on-one with people, but put him up in front of others, and it was like watching paint dry behind a stove, which also had a pot of water on it, which failed to boil. So the man was dull.
I've been to a few drag shows just like that.
Yeah, you can't even throw a bit of glitter on this one, I'm afraid.
No.
Not one to let his failings be his downfall, Joseph knew if he wanted to succeed in his ventures, he had to find a new mouthpiece, a charismatic frontman for his band of mystics. So Joseph was on the lookout for someone who could take his message and sell it. And when he invited Luc to a meeting at his new venture, the Golden Way Foundation, Luc brought the house down.
Boots.
Joseph had set up the Golden Way to attract businessmen in Switzerland and to initiate them into a secret order that would protect each other, a little like the Freemasons. Now, Luc had also set up what we would now recognise as a multi-level marketing business in the form of something known as a mentor.
Was he selling charcoal toothpaste at the same time?
No, essential oils. Joseph and Luc agreed that if a mentor and the Golden Way joined forces, they could get more people to join. And so they began working together. Joseph love-bombed Luc in the early months and kept telling him how amazing he was. Luc became heavily emotionally reliant on Joseph and saw him as somewhat of a father figure. Luc was having troubles in his marriage, even though he'd pretty much only just got married, and Joseph was there to be a shoulder to cry on. When Luc's wife Marie discovered she was pregnant, Luc was overjoyed and thought this might fix their marital problems. But just 4 months after baby Sebastian was born, tragedy struck as he died from heart problems.
No, it's always the worst. Well, any child's passing is always terrible.
Mm-hmm.
But especially when it's something that he thought that would be the fix to his marital issues. He is yearning for this to work and succeed. And it's just another blow to his heart, bless him. Absolute tragedy.
Absolutely distraught and not coping at all, Luc heavily leaned on Joseph for spiritual guidance. And Joseph told him that this was a lesson from above, that he was destined for greater things. So Luc is obviously incredibly emotionally raw at this time, and so he goes along with Joseph because he doesn't know what else to do. Joseph has joined another occult group, the Order of the Temple, and Luc also joins, and Joseph steps back to let him rise through the ranks. It takes Luc just over a year to go from initiate to leader as their original founder, Julian Arrigus, passes away at 63 years old. It's believed that Arrigus really liked Luc, and so he may have told him he could take over when he died. But it seemed this was all highly orchestrated and very quick, and some people even began to say that Luc had a hand in his death due to his homeopathic treatments.
Oh, see, now we're getting to very sketchy territories.
It's all a little bit creepy, isn't it? Suddenly, Joseph has found this new group and they've got in, and then within a year, Luc has taken over.
It's when you get into the positions of powers and the control, I don't like it, and I don't trust it.
Now, the Order of the Temple was an interesting group for Joseph de Mambro to want to join, because Arrigus was a neo-Nazi.
Oh, of course.
This didn't reflect Joseph's experiences in the war, but I guess it worked out well for the majority of the beliefs the rich people he was trying to seduce into the group held. After some issues with Arrigus's daughter, who could sense that Jouret was trying to siphon a lot of the Order's money, she ousted him. But Luc didn't leave alone. About 50% of the Order went with him, and so he decided to start his own breakaway group, the Order of the Solar Temple.
Now, you keep saying the Order, and I just keep thinking of the Princess Diaries. The Order of the Rose.
This is the Order of the Solar Temple.
Thank you, Julie Andrews.
That's the second mention of Julie Andrews in one episode.
What can I say? She's always on my mind.
Icon. So, the Order of the Solar Temple basically stole the name from the previous group, but they added enough of a change to avoid too many repercussions. So, Joseph de Mambro had got exactly what he wanted. He'd managed to carve his own cult leader, and he was using him for his own evil bidding. Now, as soon as the Order of the Solar Temple was formed, things became insular and twisted. New members had to undergo strict initiation processes via Luc's old MLM, a mentor, and the Solar Temple wasn't revealed to them until they proved themselves there first. By the time they got through the stages to get into the Order, they'd already given a lot of themselves. And so by the time the real batshit stuff was revealed, it was quite difficult for people to back out. And we've definitely heard that before, haven't we? Where people have joined something and it's been relatively normal, and then they start cutting ties with their family, their friends, and then they start disappearing into this cult. And then if they were to leave that cult, they would have nothing. So you can see why it happens, can't you?
Of course. And it is a pattern, like in all of them. It starts very hunky-dory, who's hunky-dory, but then it just really just escalates. And it's all because the leaders enjoy the power, enjoy the control, enjoy the coercion. And they're like testing the waters with each hurdle and milestone that they're like, well, if I'm getting away with this, let's try this. It's a recipe for disaster.
Now, the Order believed they were descended from the Knights Templar. Have you got any ideas what the Knights Templar might be?
Knights of the Round Table. No.
Are you back on Google again?
Yeah, no. Blow me away, Nikki Druce. What is it?
So they were formed around 1118, so we're talking even before I was born, and they were self-appointed protectors of the faith of Catholicism in Jerusalem, and they basically protected pilgrims from being slaughtered.
Sorry, can we just rewind a second? You
Yes.
said it was before I was born. Nikki, you were born in the 80s. The 1980s. We're talking about the 1100s, for crying out loud.
Yeah, only a little bit before.
You know there's only 8 years between us.
I'm ancient. I definitely
Piss
was
off.
around. I was definitely around when the Knights Templar was about. Knights Templar, yeah, I founded it, mate.
Completed it, mate.
So they also are attributed to having set up the first ever banking system. So the control of finances within the Order of the Solar Temple naturally followed. So basically the Knights Templar were like, hey, we're going to be nationwide.
I'm going to be Nat West.
Other banks are available. So the OTS is now growing. New members are joining. Luke and Joseph are initiating people into the group, getting them to part with a lot of money, and then things start to move very quickly into something twisted.
And of course, tale as old as time is always when money is involved that things get dark and twisted.
He travels around setting up new factions all over the world. One in Canada, one in Martinique in the Caribbean. Basically anywhere which spoke French, Luke went to and set up shop. In Switzerland, Joseph begins saying he has to have control over people's relationships. Here we go, it's starting.
Start your engines.
He splits up couples, including Luke and his wife Marie, and begins pairing people off with new partners.
Now, is this control, or is it jealousy, or is it both?
It's probably a little bit of both, I think. It's having ultimate control, isn't it? It's playing God. It's telling people that they can't have what they want. So it's all about restricting what they would actually like and making them do what he wants them to do.
Don't like him.
No. It's during this time as well that Joseph himself says he has mystical sexual powers and that he can heal people through intercourse.
Fuck off.
Luke also jumps on this bandwagon, and he too says he has also been given the gift of sexual healing. Sorry for ruining that song for everyone now.
Poor Martin Gay?
Yes, Martin Gay.
Yes. Poor Marvin Gaye.
The interesting thing is that both men are not fussy about who requires the healing. Both men and women are given the same treatments, in inverted commas, and sometimes a few people are involved at a time. Now, as part of these sexual ceremonies and their rituals at the Order's headquarters in Switzerland, Joseph had started being able to summon the Knights of the Templar. They appear as wispy, ghost-like lights, but they're definitely recognisable as knights.
Joseph and Luke can summon these apparitions, ask them questions, and receive orders as to what they want them to do next. Members are paired with each other on the will of the Knights. People are moved up and down the ranks according to the Knights, and generally any decisions are now coming from these apparitions. Now, the interesting thing about these apparitions is that they always appear in the same mirrored cupboard. There's dry ice and plenty of incense burned, and the lights are always low. One day, Joseph's own son happens to be tidying up, and he's cleaning one of the mirrors in the cupboard when it pops open to reveal a hidden projector. It turns out Joseph and one of the other members of the OTS, Tony Dutoit, had masterminded faking the apparitions to keep people invested when it looked like members would leave after the coupling and sex weirdness. So this was an attempt to keep them invested. Now, not to rush things too much, but we could do 4 episodes on this group and not fit everything in. So here's a brief timeline of what happens next. In Martinique, Luke tells the lodge that the end times are coming, and then an earthquake happens.
An actual earthquake?
An actual earthquake.
I wasn't sure if this was like the simulator at an actual history museum or not.
No, this is definitely happening in real life. That group is all terrified, so he asks them all to take out huge loans and move to Quebec, where they start an organic farm. But then there is an earthquake in Quebec. So this further solidifies the fact that the end times are coming, and the message starts to be drip-fed through all the different lodges to get ready. The message is delivered to the group that they must prepare for transit. Now, transition wasn't a new concept to the members who'd been part of this since their split from Origus' Order of the Temple, as he had always preached that this would be part of the group's teachings, but he didn't say when it was coming. Joseph's son outs the fake projections to the group in Switzerland and sends letters to all the other groups as well.
He really has the receipts.
Tony Dutoit takes the fall for it all and is exiled from the group along with his wife, Nikki.
You?
It's my name. It's my name. Not me. Not me.
I'm going to say you kept that under wraps.
Surprise!
And his wife, Nikki Druce.
Not me. Not me. I have a different husband. With this revelation, a huge amount of followers are hemorrhaged from the group, and they go from almost 500 members to just over 100 in a matter of weeks.
That's more of a drop-off than Hyperia, and I hate roller coasters.
Now, a huge majority of these members across the world ask for refunds, and the pressure is really starting to mount. Now, we don't know quite what was going on here, but for some reason in 1993, Luc Jouret was now back in Europe, ordered 2 members of the group to purchase guns with silencers over in Canada, and the dodgy dealings were intercepted by the police, and so the 2 members were arrested, but they outed Luke as their spiritual leader who asked them to do it. See where the idea of traitors is coming into this now?
Yes. We were at the round table, we're just about to write on the slates, and they're like, no, it was you. Excuse me, you told me to do this. Well, he's actually the mastermind behind this because he told me to do this with you.
There you go, and they're the Knights Templar, the Knights of the Round Table. It's all slotting together. This instigated the cops to take a closer look at this group, who they'd previously believed to be harmless, and now it seemed the net was closing. But there had been another huge case in the cult world that literally exploded that year, and this made everyone very attuned to cults. Can you remember what happened in 1993? We have covered it on the show.
Was it the Waco Siege?
It was the Waco Siege. You are correct. Ding, 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 ding.
Very, very unfortunate circumstances. Mismanaged on both ends, but quite the mainstream publication.
So that's right. Waco was everywhere. And if you haven't listened to our episode on Waco and the Branch Davidians, do go and have a listen to that one after this. Or even if you have listened to it before, why not go back and revisit it to tie all of this together, because it will help you.
It's the timelines, everyone.
Now, whilst Waco and the OTS didn't have any ties, it did signify to them that the end was coming.
and soon it would be time for transit. They believed they had to leave their physical vessels to transit to Sirius, which is the brightest star in the night sky, where they could begin round 2 of their lives. During 1993, Luke became very paranoid and started having meetings with people in his life to basically say goodbye, which made everyone very nervous about what he was going to do. But no one could seemingly stop him. Equally, Joseph was also treading a strange path. Back in 1981, he had got one of the other members of the OTS, Dominique Belleton, pregnant. She was 21 and Joseph was 57.
Don't like it.
It's not right, is it? Definitely not okay. The whole time Dominique was pregnant, Joseph had spent his time saying that this was going to be Christ reborn.
Oh, fuck off.
So when a little girl arrived, he had to immediately flip the narrative. Emmanuelle, as she was named, was said to be the cosmic child, and the group had to worship her along with subsequent cosmic children that were born into the order. Now, this is hilarious. Emmanuelle, at the age of 12 in 1993, got really fed up of being worshipped and just wanted to go and do normal teenager stuff like going down the park and drinking cider and reading Smash Hits magazine. She began throwing strops during these sessions, and this behaviour upset the group, who became suspicious that the cosmic children were anything to do with God whatsoever.
Well, she was coming into puberty. Of course she's going to be like, piss off everybody. I want to just crack on and do my own thing.
I can just imagine her standing during these really serious religious ceremonies with her arms crossed going, come on, I want to watch Top of the Pops.
Can we hurry this up, please? The Spice Girls are performing Wannabe in Japan. I need to see it.
In 1994, the series of events would unfold, which would kickstart the transit. But to see how all of that plays out, you'll have to join us for part 2 of this case next week. That's right, we're doing a 2-parter.
Oh, it's been a hot second since we've done a 2-parter, but finally, I was getting to the point where I was like, so when is it going to happen? Like, I'm loving all the deets, but like, what's going on? I need to know what's going to happen for the vessels.
I'm keeping all of that for next week. So how do you feel about all of this so far, Shez? What do you think you would do in this situation if the OTS came knocking? Do you think you'd be joining, or do you think you'd be telling them to get fucked?
Well, firstly, I'd be slamming the door shut. That's what I'd be doing. But I always find the cult cases so fascinating because I just never know how I would conduct myself if I was just born into it, you know, and it was my life. So, again, there are so many different patterns. You see the dope characteristics of needing to leave and join another vessel from Heaven's Gate. You see the crossing of timelines with the Waco Siege, another cult. You know, it's just all these different comparisons all coming in. And it's when the pieces of the puzzle start to come together and you're like, aha, got you. You're a cult.
But I think it's really interesting, isn't it? Because this is the 90s, and it seems that there is a lot of cults that become apocalyptic during the 90s. So I wonder if it's like a combination of the Cold War and all of that stuff leading up to it, that people really did think that the world was going to end. And the fact that it has been such a simmering process by that point, it just feels a bit like, as you said, all the timelines are coming together. And then all these cults decide to go at a similar time.
Well, I've got another spell to add to the cauldron. The acceleration of the internet.
Yeah.
You look at Heaven's Gate, they've still got an active website to this day, and people are accessing so much information via the internet during the 90s. So it just seems like it was just upping the ante, more people getting to have information at their fingertips via the internet. You know, it's all contributing factors all coming together at once.
Yeah, and it's just a change of pace, isn't it? And I am amazed that they managed to set up all these orders before the internet around the world if they couldn't speak to each other. But I love the fact that Joseph's son sent letters
to out the fact that these apparitions were all fake and they were holograms in these mirrored cupboards. And when you think about it, that is so ridiculous, isn't it? It's so stupid, but people genuinely believed it.
I know. I mean, if you want to believe it, you'll believe anything.
And at this point, if you'd been so financially invested in things, you probably were thinking, right, okay, well, it does seem a bit weird that there's suddenly a knight standing in front of me, but this is what I've paid for. And these weren't stupid people either. A lot of the time we see people in cults being coerced into it because they don't have any money, they don't have anybody to go to. But these were businessmen, they were people that owned their own properties, they were people that really were doing well in life. So for them to believe all of this, it must have been very convincing indeed.
Which makes me wonder, am I part of a cult right now?
Maybe you are. Maybe you are. Coming up next time on Killers, Cults and Queens.
We'll be picking up with part 2 of the Order of the Solar Temple story and uncovering the twisted world which leads to the devastating mass suicide event. So make sure you join us then to find out what went on.
If you've made it this far, thank you for listening. That's all for this episode, and we'll be back next Monday with part 2 of the case.
And we want to hear from you. We'll be discussing your thoughts and theories on this Friday's Spooky Sleepover bonus show. So pop us an email at killerscultsqueens@gmail.com.
Or DM us at Killers, Cults, Queens on Instagram. Leave us a comment on Spotify or YouTube, or send us a message on Patreon because we want to know exactly what you think. And whilst you're there, don't forget to leave us a 5-star review or a thumbs up. It really does make a difference.
And did you know you can watch all of our episodes for season 4 so far on YouTube, and we've started uploading them on Spotify too? So make sure you see us turning looks and stunting pretty.
If you've been affected by any of the themes in this episode, please have a look at the description for lots of helpful resources.
Remember, you can join our exclusive community over on Patreon at patreon.com/killerscultsqueens.
See you next time, and don't be a killer or join a cult.
Specifically that, just be a queen. Goodbye.
Goodbye.